This is part 2 of Ziggy's endgame druid in Path of Exile. Let's give it a go here. All right.
G'day folks, ZIGGYD here, back with part 2 of my Druid hands-on preview. Thanks again to GGG for flying me over to the studio, and keep in mind that this footage is a week old and non-final. Things can and have changed.
So the first one we reacted to was Act 1. This looks like this is Act 3, isn't it? This is Act 3, isn't it? The Val Chambers? Pretty sure it's Act 3. I don't quite remember. I think the first one was Act 1 and a little bit Act 2. This could be
If you
2
didn't
and
see the
3.
previous video,
We'll
part 1, then check that out for
We'll
context
see.
as this video builds upon that one. Now just a note on my overall power level, as that was a topic of discussion a fair bit in the first video, to help you gauge kind of where I'm at. It's a little bit tricky because baseline, I think my gear overall was pretty solid, quite good in Act 1, and then pretty reasonable to good for what I think will be the case with the Vile Temples that everyone's going to have access to, in addition to Abyss Crafting and the other various improvements that have been made there. Like, I think our gears...
The vines actually look pretty good. Not gonna lie. The vines look pretty good. 1 second. I have to answer this. Okay. But yeah.
Looking pretty good, but I didn't have anything super crazy in Act 2 and 3, but I was able to fix bad slots when needed for the most part. The biggest gap was spellcaster weapons affecting spell power level, so they were all a little bit more underpowered than they probably should be to look at. Also, due to skipping through some of the larger zones and missing a side quest or two, I ended up a bit underleveled and underpassive.
Shit. Keep pausing it.
And because I'm trying to test as many different setups as possible, my gem levels and supports are all a little bit bad for a long time. Quite a few.
Just makes me want to play werewolf this much more.
Few levels behind on some skills and don't have supports kind of filled
this
out
is
for
cool.
a near.
This is a new thing, right? This must be part of the new league mechanics.
Everything. So probably a bit better than average gear, but a bit worse than average passives and gems. Anyway, make of that what you will.
This is Thunderstorm. Deals 1 to 16 lightning damage, storm radius, impact radius, storm duration, hits on target. Hits one target every second there. Can hit each enemy only once every half a second. Cannot drench enemies above level 32. Drenched enemies receive 20% more spilled up. Drenched enemies have 50% more chance of being shocked. Drenched lingers for 2-second duration and limited to 1.
As I move into Act 2, I get a chance to cut my first level 5 gem, and this tier gives access to some pretty key skills for a few of the Druid playstyles. You've got Thunderstorm with synergies for plant, lightning, and cold damage builds. More on those later. Devour for much easier charge generation on the Wyvern, pretty key piece for those builds.
Devour up to half a second of total. Attack time based on travel, knock back enemies, impact radius, regenerates 39 life, corpse consumed. This is a cool ability. You consume a corpse.
And Arctic Howl for freeze werewolf.
This is what I want to see. Arctic Howl, deal 17 to 25 cold damage, cannot cause freeze up. Knock back enemies. Freezed enemies are now primed for freeze. Empowers the attack for 10 enemies powered range. Powered in range, counting up to 50 power. Warcry radius, buff duration, power attacks gain cold damage per 5 power. Okay.
And then Fury of the Mountain for the bear form.
Converts all physical damage to fire, grants 3 rage on hit. Okay.
Which is what I take first. And this one is excellent. This is a slam skill that creates fissures. You can have up to 12 of them out at a time, and it generates rage on hit. This skill immediately replaced Maul as the basic attack for Bear for me, since it does the same role of rage generation, and Fury of the Mountain does a whole lot more in addition to that too.
Werewolf just looks so much cleaner.
As a Fisher skill, Shockwave Totem
so much cleaner.
Pulses, so that's a lot of extra damage for you. And there's even better news here. The pulses can also generate rage on each hit in addition to that initial slam. So the totem fissures just keep pulsing and they keep your rage topped up while you spend it slamming away. It's really nutty. So crazy, in fact, that I thought it probably wasn't intended and was a bug. So I asked the developers and they're like, oh, we'll take a look at that. But then I asked Mark in the Q&A, he said, you know, it actually should work that way because that's fun and cool. And true to their word, I double checked and that seems to be the plan. So it's a really sick rage generator skill there. That passive ongoing rage generation is super nice for bear form, routing that out a lot. And on top of that, for Fury of the Mountain, since it's a slam skill, each of the initial hits can trigger volcano projectiles. So you can dust down your volcano slam skills for bear form. Really sick rage generator skill there. That passive plan. So
do this quickly.
It's a really sick rage generator skill there. That be the plan. So it's a really sick rage generator skill there.
Totem's greatest supportive skills, great blood front with a 4 radius of 4 meters. Allies and blood leech equal to 12% physical damage by the support totem.
That passive ongoing rage generation is super nice for bear form, routing that out a lot. And on top of that, for Fury of the Mountain, since it's a slam skill, each of the initial hits can trigger volcano projectiles. So you can dust down your volcano projectiles and slam those out. As a bit of a side note, that's kind of related to this. In the updated patch notes, they just posted that the rage decay rate was halved and the time before it begins increased from 2 to 4 seconds. So it's now much easier to keep rage up between packs.
Druid as a whole looks sweet.
All-round rage and bear form is looking really comfy to play.
It might be our second class we build into.
Going on here with like the bear form kind of approach. You've got Volcano being triggered by Fury of the Mountain and Furious Slam. Then you've
I want to make the Van Helsing build work this time.
Fury of the Mountain and the jagged ground that you create with empowered Furious Slams. And it's all fueled by the continuous rage generation going on from the totems triggering the fishes on enemies, powering those Furious Slams. So it's kind of looping. There's a lot of feedback loops of damage going on here. Makes for a pretty satisfying bossing. And it's actually like pretty straightforward to play as well. You don't really have to think about all of those like complex lines of play. You just kind of do all the things on top of each other. It works great. So I didn't actually play this setup for too long because I was a bit unsure if Fury of the Mountain was working as intended. So I don't think I did it full justice gameplay wise. But basically you can drop a volcano or two with the extra charge and a totem, then Fury of the Mountain, a couple fishes out, pounce in via wolf form, and then Furious Slam repeatedly until everything is dead.
There's a boss in Free that a lot of people have trouble with.
Able to work in Ferocious Roar with Infernal Cry. It should be a great addition for some extra fire damage, and Rampage could also be lots of fun to use.
He's doing DP,
instead
pretty good DPS
of before the slams, maybe, to trigger the fishes as you run around. Anyway, I'm sure many of you at this point are sold on Bear. I know I am. So let's take a look at some of the other things. Arctic Howl is a Cold War Cry-like skill for werewolf form that deals some cold damage in an area and knocks them back. Mainly though, this one insta-freezes any enemies that are primed for freeze, which is, I believe, anything over 70% freeze build-up on bosses and lower for other enemies. Upon freezing enemies or hitting an already frozen enemy, Arctic Cry gives your allies bonus cold damage and chilled ground generation, and it empowers some of your own attacks with added cold damage. So the fact that it works on already frozen enemies is really key to it not being awkward to use. I mean, it's great when it lets you freeze enemies earlier, especially bosses, but in most cases, regular enemies are just frozen from one Lunar Assault anyway, right? You're doing so much damage proportional to the health, and we have so much freeze build-up scaling that everything's frozen and you don't really get it. You kind of miss your opportunity if it was like that. So there's like a support element to this skill that'll be pretty interesting for party play, or of course minion builds like Wolfpack builds. But I should note that in the version of the game that I was playing at this point,
and we're probably going to play, like I said, I'm going to do my Van Helsing build, Merc, and then probably Druid, and then round it off with Witch, and after Witch, I don't know what we'll play.
The Wolf Minion parts of the Druid were still being finalized, so it's not something I could really
by then,
gauge.
wow, Midnight might be out.
An issue of this particular Lunar Assault and Shred style with Arctic Howler that I noticed is that any empowers often end up just getting used by a quick Shred attack, which is pretty low impact for an empower. Empower typically makes more sense for big, heavy hits like slams, where the limited nature of those empowerments fits better, right? And that's somewhat at odds with the Wolf, which is pretty fast and lots of really fast little hits. It's possible that it can be used to empower maybe like a pure Lunar Assault setup more for clearing, I imagine, with Herald of Ice at endgame. So I'm sure we'll figure out a place for it. I'm also wondering if it like has potential as a piece in some sort of mixed melee builds, like, I don't know, Wolf Monks or something. Despite Empower not adding much for my playstyle, I still ended up using this skill as a way to freeze bosses early, and I also linked it to Ice Bite as a way to generate the Ice Bite damage buff. So that was nice, but definitely lower impact than some of the other skills that we got for the wolf form. Early in Act 2, I had my next entrance to the Val Temple, and things started getting more interesting with more options for rooms and actual room upgrading occurring. For example, linking the workshop to the bronze workers, which I was able to place to create 4 tier 2 rooms. I think ways to upgrade guardhouses are also possible at this level, as I recall seeing those a little bit later on. So this is still very simple, early intro tutorial level sort of stuff here, before you unlock the time travel version of the temple later on. But with further improved crafting and loot rooms now at this point, so it's a bit more impactful on your gear upgrading. The special rare monsters in some of the rooms are pretty spicy as well, but the icicle
smack
shred
that and get a fucking
seemed to be getting
slam
more and more
right off the
effective
rip
as I progressed, and I didn't have too many difficulties.
without using an exalt.
I need more time for that.
And indeed, after my little temple foray to upgrade my gear, I pieced out and...
Fisher's build's pretty cool with like the doing all the plant stuff, like all the fissures coming out, and then like the I forget what, entangled ground or whatever it's called, whatever this skill is right here. Looks really good.
Went right into the Rudia fight, where we get to see the power of freeze scaling this setup has access to here.
I'm not ready yet.
I think she got to do like one flamethrower attack in between long freezes, which are starting to get scaled by some freeze duration buffs at this point from the tree and supports. She didn't even get a chance to do her final melee form. Ooh. So after that, I got to try out Thunderstorm.
I think I'll be doing decent DPS.
It has a lot of different applications. It strikes an area with lightning bolts over a long duration, so it's just another sustained damage thing you can throw in. But it's a combo piece for quite a few setups because the Rainstorm, like, also creates, well, rain. It moistens things. The rain drenches enemies. I feel like this is a meme skill at this point, so PoE. Making them have, it makes them have substantial buffs to the chance to be shocked and their freeze build up on the enemies that are drenched. That rain also waters your plants. So silly. We'll take a look at that one later, but for now it's...
Silly chat. It is silly.
Pretty effective as a booster akin to, say, Volcano for Ice Wolf. You just throw it down for some extra damage. I used the extra charge to be able to get 2 of them out from the support. Overabundance, and that was a noticeable amount of extra sustained damage. And then on top of that, it would moisten the enemies, making them even easier to freeze. Not that I really needed that at this point. Pretty nice on...
The more I get into my build is when I'll post it. I have it going on Mobalytics at the moment, so we got 20 hours, chat. 20 hours. But yeah, so once I'm like probably like Act 2 or something, maybe Act 3. By the time I hit Act 3, I'll actually publish the build. I'll probably have it somewhat fledged out by then, if I make it that far this time. I know my Bleed Merc build didn't make it that far. I made it like Act 2, final Act 2, and I just wasn't, I was DPS. I was full ethical at that point, so we'll see.
Bosses and rares, and it gave me a bit of boosted kind of area denial management since I didn't get to try Herald of Ice in my testing with this playstyle, so I was lacking a little bit of that AoE clear, which this helped make up for. It was pretty satisfying pinning the Jinn in a corner. She's usually quite the pest, this boss, teleporting around and everything. And the ice shards stack and explode right under her when it gets against a wall like this as well. You can get that nice shotgunning going on. It's pretty awesome, even though I actually kind of screwed up the combo by backing off when she was frozen to do some other spells. I should have kept just shredding away. Anywho, I grabbed Devour next and just give it a brief test. This skill allows you to leap onto a colorable enemy or corpses and eat their faces.
I'm just not, like, Wyvern isn't it's not selling for me at all. Bear a little bit, entangled a little bit, wolf completely, but yeah, Wyvern is just not selling for me.
Eating faces gives you a flat regen buff to heal up and generates power charges for you as well. This skill represents a pretty big turnaround for the power charge
skip
issue.
ahead a little bit here.
Even Wyvern, so duration
Sorry,
spell
I'm just
spam,
not
you just
the
go
biggest
slow and
fan of
safe, that should
Wyvern.
work just fine. Bear form with Fury of the Mountain Fishes and Totems for just like really easy ranged melee should be super safe. And then even Wyvern with Volcano, Storm, and Magma at range should just be like a nice easy range spellcaster approach if you want to go that route. I end up going for possibly the hardest wolf form as it's kind of proper melee. But that said, it's decently powerful and it goes just kind of fine with a bit of hit and run and taking advantage of freeze. But I have practiced a lot of Sekima's runs, so that does help. I suggest maybe going for one of the other routes or just getting a little bit overpowered and doing some hit and run freeze action if you're going wolf form in Sekima's.
Look out for this land.
We might see some ascendancies here.
I need more time for that. So much heft, and still you fall like the rest.
So as for ascending, Oracle felt like a bit of a rabbit hole that I didn't want to
Covering pass, moment of vulnerability.
dive into in my somewhat limited time, so I end up going for the a bit more straightforward and fun looking shaman. Interestingly, the node that I actually took got changed as I was playing, so that's what happens when you're playing on the
Makes sense.
live dev version of the game in the end. No point showing you the earlier version, but the newer version gave enemies in my presence exposure and 10% extra damage as random element, which is fun and fits with the node that I get later on too. Funnily, it took me way too long to figure out how I was giving enemies exposure because this just happened in the background. It was a different node when I picked it, right? It didn't have that mechanic at
That
all.
crosscut
I
is
was
what I
very
kind of
confused until I
excited for.
eventually just randomly looked at my tendency.
That ability right there.
I was like, huh, that looks different. So, with some bonus elemental damage on
That cross slash here. Gouge lengths, gouge widths. Yeah. Things
online,
ice fragments.
I head back into Act 2 with my beloved wolf form to test out the new cross slash
I
skill.
thought this
that I
was
picked up at some
leaving.
point. This
I thought Abyssal was leaving. And it was only going to be an endgame.
executes a short hopback with a massive X-shaped slash. It's a pretty important skill for many wolf builds for two main reasons.
If you guys know, comment down in the comments. I'm pretty sure this is only an endgame now. I thought that's what Jonathan and them said.
It triggers any marks on the target, which in the case of Predator's mark from Pounce means that you can summon wolves on demand. I imagine that also means that you can explode freezing or voltaic marks with it too, if you want to get some extra damage from that. And on top of that, when triggering marks this way,
It's like back-to-back seasonal activities. You got the fucking, how it's called, the foul fucking thing here, and then the Rise of the Abyss there.
cross slash causes an extra shockwave of damage too. And then for the ice werewolf builds, cross slash is very powerful as it scoops up any of those ice fragments in the area and dumps them all in the middle of that X. That means that you go from sometimes hitting bosses or rares with half or so of the icicles to being able to hit them with every single icicle every time if you time it right. That's a big burst damage boost to the build. So this unlocks like a new play strategy now. It looks a little something like Pounce In, marking the enemy, Lunar Assault, and maybe an Arctic Howl to freeze them. Then go for a full Shred combo, and Cross Slash to dump all of the icicles from that Shred combo on them, and then start shredding again while those explode until the enemies unfreeze. Then when it's unfrozen or you finish your next combo, hit another Cross Slash for good measure to just scoop up all the rest of those little icicle shards. With a bit of attack speed scaling, it seems like you definitely get time for like 2 full Shred combos during the course of a lot of freezes. Especially if you start scaling freeze duration as well.
Looks pretty good though. Looks like it does pretty good damage.
I'm not ready yet. Your leash is snapped. Let's finish this. Not ready yet.
The hopback part of the cross slash could have felt annoying. And there's been cases where this has been, you know, the case for other skills, especially when trying to do like single target damage. You don't really want to be like going away from the enemy you're trying to damage. But in this case, didn't feel like an issue thanks to Shred having that built-in mini leap to the target on the first attack. That made it feel really smooth and satisfying, and only like kind of added to that already crazy mobility feeling of the werewolf form. You're leaping in and out really smoothly. They really, I think, captured the frenzied feeling of what I want from a werewolf. Something about the way like you pounce in and then tear away with your hands is very satisfying. It often makes it feel like, oh man, I'm just like,
it looks so satisfying to play wolf.
bosses. I'm pulling them apart limb by limb. It's good. It plays into the fantasy, even though like I wasn't initially on board with the ice form of this. Like I feel like I'm surprised it wasn't kind of like a more physical blood oriented setup, but I guess that they have more of an overall elemental theme for the druid.
That's the way I wanted it to be too. I wanted to like pump blood merc. I've been trying to build a blood merc for fucking 2 seasons now. So in my own way. So I was hoping that werewolf would have been like more blood related, but it is what it is.
And the ice wolf is, yeah, it's a bit more unique, I suppose. I'm on board at this point. So in Keth, I found a support gem and put AoE on cross slash, which is probably unnecessary, but it was satisfying. Let's make that thing even bigger. It's already like huge. I could see some nice screen-sized X marks the spots on bosses being pretty funny. And I had a pretty interesting encounter here too. So the first unique boss that I saw on a Vile Sacrifice platform kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Unfortunately for them, I instantly froze them and was about to finish them off before they even had a chance to do anything. But I decided to hold back and just give them a chance. I wanted to see what the boss did.
Oh, PoE and their effects.
Shortly after that, in this fun tomb encounter, I was really sad that I didn't choose Herald of Ice earlier. Because, oh man, that's going to be so satisfying there. Well, it launches soon. I can try that again, perhaps.
Yeah, we're definitely doing Herald of Ice.
And finally for Keth, finding new and fun ways to torment the sad fire baby boss is a personal hobby of mine. I don't know if you've heard of this genre of activity, but I'm pleased to report that Wolfform has a pretty fresh take in this regard. When he finally summoned
Wolf looks so good.
the will to bring up his health bar, only to get frozen and then killed. Aww. So as we head into the Titan Valley, you get to see some of the now core Abyss mechanic is having a presence in the campaign. And I did actually get quite a few crafting items from Abyss during Acts 2 and 3, which does surprise me because Val Temple is giving out
I thought they were getting rid of it, but I guess not.
a ton of crafting power. And
like I thought it was just going to be an endgame maps.
it feels like we didn't really even lose Abyss in this regard. I expected that Abyss would just be like non-existent till endgame, but it's there and you actually get to use it. I used it a few times. I was maybe getting a bit overconfident at this point because I suffered a classic for me giant skelly squish death. I swear it's like one of my most common deaths in PoE2 is just getting these guys falling on me. The Titan Grotto boss points out a minor nuisance in freeze builds like this. Some larger bosses in PoE2 have a mechanic where they cannot be frozen or like stopped during certain attack sequences or time frames. That can mean that you basically don't get to freeze them if you're killing them fast enough, which is kind of a bummer. I get that there's a few reasons to have a mechanic like this, but I think that maybe it could use some fine tuning, or maybe like a change like allowing the freeze to function, but the enemy's still able to move while frozen if they're like a giant Titan enemy like this. They just, you know, get slowed. I think designs like that are great because then you don't get locked out of your actual build's mechanics. You can still have your like on freeze mechanic of like firing icicles at the boss. Anyway, it's not like the fight was difficult or anything. It's just kind of like a bummer that he spends, you know, a full minute on 99% freeze.
That's always been an issue with that boss though, like getting certain AoEs off on them.
I ended up getting another Val Temple in the latter half of Act 2 with more room upgrading and plenty of crafting benches to socket quality and add mods to my gear. And this nicely combines with the Abyss crafts that I had access to now as well to round out some key gear pieces, you know, upgrading a chest or fixing up a weapon, for example. I actually managed to get the next spirit gem tier here, and I was definitely tempted to take her advice, but
Bark skin. Hit by an enemy. Gain armor. 32% of energy shield loss.
I wanted to check out some of the new stuff. There's 2 new options here. So wolf pack, it does exactly what you think. It summons a wolf pack. Apparently you can also get a crazy number of wolves with this plus pounce at endgame. I don't want to say like specific numbers that the dev said to me because I can't remember what the actual number was, but it was higher than I expected based on the numbers that you see here, which I think like I can have 4 and 5 right now, so 9. But I guess if you think you can have 9 now and then assume what you could have by endgame, well, yeah, you can maybe get the idea. Anyway, I don't know the potential of the minion druid side of things. They're trying to put every single build in druid, so I'm sure some of them will probably not be fully well-rounded, but I don't know, maybe there's some wolf pack potential there. Anyway, I opted for the other choice, the defensive spirit skill bark skin. This grants you a flat armor bonus for a duration based on damage taken on hit to your energy shield. With good energy shield recovery and armor plus duration scaling, for example, I think you can probably stack some pretty substantial armor from this. I'm actually kind of shocked that it doesn't have like a hard limit. I'm used to skills like this having or needing hard limits because inevitably some player gets infinite armor from it or something. But I guess in this case, since it's duration based and it requires
that boss is
hits,
fun.
like
the first time I ever
think
played
you
this, I
could
was
self-hit
like,
yourself
I was
with
so
anything.
pumped
It's
when I bought
probably
this
that
boss.
makes it a bit more reasonable. Anyway, I really like this skill. It's actually kind of messed
Like, this
around
thing
with a
is
little bit for
visually
building my
fucking
character. Even though I was
stunning
just in
boss
the
fight.
campaign, I didn't really need it. I took the Zealot's Oath keystone to convert life regeneration to energy shield regen when my life was full, and that keeps it present in combat much better than recharge, and that enables Barkskin to do a whole lot more, I think. It's not really like a flashy skill, but I don't know, I really like this one. It seems fun to build around hybrid life ES, regen, and stacking defensive buffs that like spike the more dangery, and I like that style mechanic. It's neat. And with Druid having like a lot of access to elemental damage taken to armor, I can anticipate, you know, this having a bit more of an impact as well. Anyway, alongside Cross Slash, Ferocious Roar, and Spell Totem are the other level 7 gems. Spell Totem lets you link a spell to be kind of autocast by the totem, but in PoE2 it costs 3 charges. That sounds kind of annoying, but at least for bear form it's super easy to have 3 endurance charges passively and quickly even by just spending rage. So it's probably pretty easy to use it there for some like decent utility spell options, but it's not something I've really given any thought at this point. It seems supplemental for sure. Ferocious Roar looks pretty good. It's a bear form Warcry.
Triggered Socket Warcry. Fisher Ferocious Roar effects. Socket 51 increased damage. Socket skills have 50% increased area effect. Okay.
Skill that lets you gain more rage and break some armor in its default form, but the real use case is probably that you can link normal human war cries like Infernal Cry into it to trigger those instead. That lets you use Infernal Cry in bear form, whereas otherwise you'd swap to human form to do it.
We're not going to have too much crossbow action with Merc. We're going to be a couple crossbow skills, but other than that, it's just going to be a lot of DPS from Werewolf. Kind of like, you know, shoot a couple, like the lore behind it, you know what I mean? You're getting beat up, so you just rage out and turn into a wolf and then fuck them all up. That's what we're going with.
You know, pair nicely with the Fire Fisher Volcano playstyles. For whatever reason, I can't really recall. I didn't end up getting a chance to test either of these. Probably because they need like other skills to make much use of them, or I forgot one of those. Anyway, end of Act 2 is often a huge difficulty spike for many builds, and weirdly I was getting a little bit under-leveled through Act 2 and 3, and also feeling like the cost of my erratic gem cutting choices as I try to test anything and everything. So, despite that, I managed pretty fine, with the sustain spells helping in those sketchier choke points, and freeze taking care of everything else. And then with Jamin Ra himself, I was actually pretty dang impressed. I managed 3 freezes in second form, and while my damage had fallen off a bit at this point, it was pretty damn smooth fight. He didn't give me much grief.
I need more time for this.
That's decent. That's decent.
Heading into Act 3, I spent a bit more time on Wolf form. I can't help myself. It's so much fun. It's fast to run through zones. First, though, something pretty unexpected awaited me on the Vile Sacrifice altar.
Another boss. Another monkey boss. Oh, hardcore people, watch out.
What the heck?
How many hardcore compilations are we gonna see of this boss just destroying people? Making a quick food run, rushing, yeah, lurking in the meantime. No problem. Thanks, man. Thanks for the lurk. Appreciate it. But this is like another monkey boss where, you know, people, oh, we know the mechs just roll, blah, 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 blah. And then someone's going to get lazy and get just lasered by this guy's fucking slam.
Heck, GG. That's pretty cheeky, putting another death monkey in this act just here randomly.
Another death monkey.
Anyway, it's time for that build change up. Apologies in advance, but I do not get time to return to bear form. But you know it's good, right? I think you've seen enough to say that. I do have something else for you, though. The moment that some of you have been desperately waiting for. It's officially time to water my plants. Now we're Path of Exiling. Gem level 9 gives Thrashing Vines. It's a plant spell that summons large vines that slap the ground and enemies too.
What's that one? Accelerated growth. Triggers accelerated growth in overgrowing plants created by support skills. Okay.
With that, plus Entangle and the Thunderstorm spell, we have everything we need to water our plants.
Water your plant.
The accelerated growth support seems pretty key here. That's a good one to incorporate into this. It lets you trigger exploding flowers whenever you overgrow your plants. Oh, it's so good. So each plant spell here has a mechanic where it will overgrow in some way if watered by thunderstorms. I can't get over how silly your plant druid is. Anyway, for Entangle,
I think it's actually a cool idea.
Fishes last longer.
Like, you know, they did something different with druid. You know, Diablo 2 druid, you had werewolf form, bear form, right? Diablo 4 druid, werewolf form, bear form, and then you had like companions. So when you got werewolf form, bear form, and then, you know, companions, then you got plants, and then you have wyvern. So I think it's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, and for Thrashing Vines, it makes them 50%.
I might actually run a plant build when I do my druid.
But Entangle's not really doing much. Just making them last longer is not really a big deal by itself. It's not something you would do if you weren't just kind of doing it for other reasons anyway. But that accelerated growth gem adds explosions, so that makes it absolutely worth it. I'm pretty sure you can also do the same thing on Briar Patch too, though I'm not sure I ended up testing that.
Full fucking
so yeah, I see some
poison ivy build
on Briar Patch and on Entangle, and then you're scaling up the Thrashing Vines in other ways, most likely. So this is a duration sustained damage spellcaster style, and there's plenty of nodes for that in the Druid's area, including an actual plant cluster that has a chance for plants to overgrow
poison
immediately,
spores,
even without Thunderstorm raining on them. So
like that
with the support from earlier means you get some exploding flowers when that happens too, so that's a nice little boost. It's mostly physical damage here with the plants, so you could likely walk in the later tornado spell that's physical as well. And maybe you can even go poison. I know there's plenty of gems.
Just a full elemental druid would be fun to play.
Stuff on the other side of the tree. I have to mention my favorite upgrade that I messed around with, and that was putting Pin on Entangle. I'm in love with Pin after playing a Tactician. Pin's amazing. And Entangle did an excellent job of rapidly building up Pin too. And I do think Pin or some sort of slow scaling seems like a very good idea here, as you really want to cause enemies to, you know, just get bogged down and stacked up in your 4 overlapped Entangles and 2 giant vine slapped fields with briar patches and double storms on top. You know, that's where all the fun's happening.
Tactician?
You want all the mobs to be in there.
Tactician.
So putting them in place is really nice.
Spellcaster?
You can totally add maim and do like slow effectiveness scaling as well. I've done that sort of stuff on grenades before, it's really nice. Now you may be thinking, looking at the footage here, that DPS looks a bit meh, and you'd be right. But in Rainy Druid's defense, I was still using my level 2 fire damage stuff at this point, so I just kind of forgot about it all this time, so I was focused on the other shape-shifting stuff. Classic spellcaster builds using Act 1 weapons into endgame, right? But bear with me though, as I do get myself a physical spell staff kind of soon. It takes me a little while, but I get it eventually. In the meantime, I do grab Oil Barrage for the Wyvern, which exposes and slows enemies, just like Oil Grenade. But we'll come back to this skill a bit later, as it's got a pretty fun, empowered...
That's some full, like, Dilophosaurus-like shit. You know what I mean? Spit oil all over the place, and then light it on fire.
...version that I test later on. So my
Jurassic
DPS
Park
from gear and underleveled gems and missing passives and all that caused me to have a bit of mana issues with this playstyle here. That's not untypical for things like this, and it was made much worse by my questionable choice to use overabundance on everything, doubling the cast that I needed to do on, you know, lacking DPS. I'm happy to say that this was a problem that solved itself after I got a couple of upgrades, since it was mostly just the fact that I was missing a lot of damage ultimately.
Out of mana.
No mana.
Oh fuck, we're gonna hear it. Mana's gonna be a thing.
Despite my waning DPS at this point, ZIGGYDGAMING went pretty smoothly, and this playstyle is just pretty comfy overall. You know, sustained AoE spell styles often are. It's interesting how different it is from the other playstyles I'd messed with on the druid though, like, it's such a varied class.
I'm not ready yet.
Thinking like poison fishers with that support skill I seen.
Don't give anything for free, do they?
So I finally managed to get myself that proper staff, getting a Fizz Spell Gems one with some nice Fizz Spell damage too. And I didn't do the math on my crafting choice, so I don't want to hear about it. Don't worry about it. Either way, this thing made a huge difference from my old piece of garbage that I had. I had like 50% fire damage or something on it. And I got it just in time to go through the often aggravating Trial of Chaos, and I'm super happy with how smoothly it went. Slows, pins, range, sustained spell damage, it all worked really nicely for most of the encounters here, and at this point with the upgrade, the damage was enough to move through, even through the escort quests pretty comfortably. I actually had one of the comfiest nightmare bird kills too. This thing is an absolute menace so
yeah,
often.
I fucking hate this boss.
I was really happy I didn't have to like rerun it just because like it went perfectly first time. Circle around, dump everything on the giant boss. Perfect.
Your flying days are over, friend.
So this let me unlock the Bringer of the Apocalypse node, which I test a little bit later on, as I was still testing the Planty Druid on my new stuff.
The Apocalypse thing looks pretty cool. It's just a constant thing of elemental damage coming down.
I'm still underleveled and missing passives, and this cheeky lady here likes to roll out of my AoEs, so that took a little while, but overall, like, once I got it online, the plant druid, the water my plants druid felt very comfortable and very fun. Enjoy watering your plants at launch, garden druids. So next up, I wanted to mess around a bit more with Wyvern and also test Apocalypse, the uber skill from the Shaman. We'll get to Apocalypse in a moment. First, I wanted to return to the Oil Barrage skill. What's normally a utility skill here becomes a pretty hilarious lightning single target barrage when empowered with a power charge. So it spends a power charge if you have one to make the barrage much longer with a bunch of added lightning damage. And if you have 3 charges, you can just like hold the button down for one long mega barrage. With Devour, you can very easily, you know, generate 3 power charges. So I was actually able to use this in the melee lightning form a bit more comfortably here. Indeed, like the combination now of having Devour, Wing Blast, and Oil Barrage made Wyvern feel a bit more well-rounded, but is still definitely the more complicated one to play here. That lightning barrage is just absolutely hilarious. I will not be
just the skills don't feel for me. It just feels so like asymmetric. It's like an asymmetric build. There's no like, at least with like Merc, you're swapping. Don't swap in through. You hear the reload. You swap through the fucking bullets. You know what I mean? The bolts. Like the werewolf, you got like all these different skills. You're swiping. You're fucking dragging your nails across the ground. You're fucking roaring out, doing all that shit. Bear, you're throwing shit on the ground, slamming the ground, creating fissures, and fucking volcanoes and shit. This is just like, uh, uh, with your little lightning wings, or breathing little tiny balls out of your mouth, fucking down, or spitting some oil. Like the oil spit seems like the coolest thing. Other than that, it just seems so asymmetric and fucking mid to me. That could just be me, but that's just what it feels. There's other classes just seem more flashy. This doesn't seem flashy.
Be surprised if we see some sort of like boss barrage deletion endgame build here. I don't know if you can really call it a one-shot when it's a barrage like that, but you know. I expect to see something disgusting with this. That's if, you know, people figure out some easy way to get those first set of power charges at least.
Wild take ya! You've lost your ruddy mind!
So I didn't get a chance to barrage a boss. Kitsuli died before I could stun them, so, well, good problem to have, I guess. I was surprised just that I was doing okay damage just off the back of, like, basic kind of Wyvern gameplay here, not really doing anything fancy.
See, like, I guess you get to summon wolves no matter what.
And finally, let's take a look at Apocalypse now.
Yeah, I want to see this.
I didn't really have any supports for this skill, so this is just pure vanilla Apocalypse. But it's pretty strong right away, and it seems usable pretty often too. Apocalypse is a glory skill, with glory for this being gained by hitting enemies with elemental damage. So obviously you're just doing that constantly, especially with like the sustained spells, just constantly ticking that up at max rate. So it's easy enough with the added random elemental damage on the node that you get before it as well, so it's going to happen regardless of your build.
Yeah, see, like, meteors come down. Ice things come fucking down from the sky.
Using the skill causes a long duration where you passively rain down meteors, hailstorms, and lightning crashes randomly around you. It's duration based as well, so, you know, there's room to make it last longer too if you want. What can I say? Skills like this are really fun. I expected to struggle a lot on the Viper boss. She's tiny, she's dangerous, she moves around a lot. Doing this on Wyvern, I was like groaning walking up to it, but it was okay. Apocalypse and some range spam from Wyvern form handled it fairly well. Even if it wasn't
This boss is so fucking annoying.
super quickly, it went okay. I'm coping. So I had a brief moment to play with Tornado, a physical duration spell I mentioned earlier.
The tornado looks pretty cool, where the fact that, like, changes elemental stuff through it, which is kind of cool.
It can suck up elemental ground to empower itself. The only problem is that it's surprisingly hard to do that on the druid's basic skill set, at least. So there's the oil barrage, is the only way that I really know of by default, and you can ignite that, but it's a little difficult to do, and it leaves oil ground if it's the non-empowered version. So if you have a power charge and you try to put oil ground down, it will,
like, that looks cool.
It will
With
just
the
use the
fire
lightning version
tornado
instead, so that's kind of funny.
That's actually
So
kind of cool.
I am sure that there's like some easy spells you can pinch from the elemental tree, or like support gem combos or something to generate ground to empower the tornado. And in the end, it's a fizz spell that you can couple in with the plant rainy druids. You know, tornadoes are something you can add into your storms, I suppose, for a bit of extra sustained area damage there. And you can also work it into your elemental builds with that ground empowerment. It's another sustained spell you can throw down before shapeshifting too. You've got a lot of them at this point.
Kind of cool if it was as I see, it's not really like a, it'd be kind of cool if it was like kind of like a rooting off rip spell, where it like kind of sucked everything in. Nothing's really getting sucked into the tornado.
Sadly, that is all I managed to do in my brief visit to the Grinding Gear Games studio this time. It's probably for the best though, as I do need
GG's, Ziggy, that was a good video. GG's. Like the video. Oh shit. There's a video, go give it a like. Great vid. Yeah, so that's good. Like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.